My mother texted me 4 words. Just your sister's family this year. I don't have a sister. It was just her way of saying, not you. What she didn't know was that I owned a $2 million estate in the mountains, and I was done waiting for a seat at anyone's table. My name is Anna Reeves. This is the Thanksgiving I stopped begging to belong. I'm 33, and I live in Seattle. People tell me I have a calm presence, put together, capable, never needing anything. What they don't see is that I learned that calm the hard way. The louder someone else got, the smaller I had to make myself. My younger brother, Caleb, was the sun our whole house orbited. My mother, Linda, never denied favoring him. It lived in her voice, softer with him, sharper with me. I was 8, doing dishes alone while she rushed him to practice. I was the one who called 911 the night I found him passed out from something he never should have touched. I remember her voice, shaking with anger, at me for making it worse. He came home from rehab to balloons and a welcome home banner in the backyard. When I got into a good college at 17, my mother put banana bread on the counter and said, "It's quiet, just how you like it." I told myself that was normal, that if I worked hard enough, stayed calm enough, eventually they'd see me. They never did. And by the time I finally stopped expecting them to, it had already cost me an engagement, and it was about to cost them something they never saw coming. When I got engaged, my mother asked me to move the wedding date because it overlapped with Caleb's birthday. At the engagement party itself, he showed up 2 hours late, blasting music, pulling every eye in the room toward him like a magnet. My fiancé's face that night, confused, disappointed, was the beginning of the end for us. He didn't last long after that. Neither did the version of me who kept insisting everything was fine. Last Thanksgiving, I brought someone new. Julian, a gentle history teacher who asked about my dreams more than my schedule. My mother sat us at a side table by the window, even though 2 chairs sat empty at the main one. When I mentioned I'd just bought my first home, my father nodded vaguely and turned straight to Caleb to ask about his podcast equipment fund. As if I hadn't said a word, Julian leaned close and whispered, "Why does it feel like we're guests at someone else's event?" I didn't answer. Admitting it out loud meant admitting how normal it had become. A few days later, he left a note on my counter. He said he cared about me but couldn't watch me keep shrinking to fit inside someone else's comfort. I told myself I'd learned something. I hadn't, not really. I still called home every week, still asked about Caleb, still swallowed the sting when every call ended with, "Don't forget his birthday." So when my mother's text landed this year, "Just your sister's family," a sister I don't even have, I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I just felt something quietly unspool inside me, and for the first time, the silence didn't feel like loss. It felt like space. I stepped onto my balcony with my coffee, watching thin Seattle rain drift sideways, and let those 11 words finish the job they'd started years earlier. Then I walked back inside, opened my laptop, and typed a phrase I hadn't searched in months. Property papers, Haven House. The file came up instantly. My name. My signature. My grandfather Harold's steady handwriting on the transfer documents. A $2 million estate tucked in the Vermont woods, wrapped in pine and early snow, legally and irrevocably mine. They'd never asked why I disappeared for winter weekends. To them, it was just Grandpa's old cabin. To me, it was the only place I'd ever felt unmistakably seen. I don't need their table, I thought. I can build my own. I opened a blank document and typed guest list. Aunt Ruth first, the one who always pulled me into a tight hug and whispered, "You okay, honey?" when nobody else noticed. Her reply came in minutes. "Tell me the date. I'm already packing." Then my cousin Ethan, who once muttered, after one of Caleb's meltdowns, "I'm sorry. You always have to fix everything." His reply, "Thanksgiving without the drama? Count me in." Then Monica, the friend who showed up with tea and blankets the night Julian left. No questions, just a screenshot of a booked flight. Choosing joy this year. Finally, I hesitated over one name. Ellie, my 8-year-old niece, Caleb's daughter, the only kid who ever looked at me like I was more than the family fixer. I texted her mother, Amanda, not expecting much. She called within the hour. Ellie read your message and cried happy tears. She wants to come. And if it's okay, I'd like to. That night I booked a flight to Vermont. For years I'd waited for someone to save me a seat. This time, I was building the whole table myself. I arrived at Haven House 3 days early, dragging suitcases up the stone steps in the cold. The pine-lined path, the weathered porch, exactly as I remembered it. I lit a fire in the stone hearth and let the warmth reach places that had felt frozen for years. The next day, I set one long table, no side seating, no hierarchy. By afternoon, tires crunched on gravel. Aunt Ruth arrived with a pie tin, pulling me close. Your grandpa would be so proud. Ethan came with wine and dried flowers, a quiet, wordless apology for everything he'd seen and never said. Monica burst in at sunset with cheese and zero plan for what it paired with. I laughed harder than I had in months. The next morning, small footsteps padded up behind me in the kitchen. Ellie stood there in a puffy jacket holding a crayon drawing of the house, Amanda cautious but kind behind her. You really made it, I said, kneeling. Ellie hugged me tight. Mom said we could come because you're making a real Thanksgiving. Then headlights swept across the front windows. Everyone I'd invited was already inside. The car door opened, and there he was, Dean. Tall, steady, holding a folded piece of paper. I didn't invite you, I said quietly. I know, he said, handing it to me. Inside, in a child's handwriting, Uncle Dean, come to Vermont. Aunt Anna needs someone who stays. She wrote this, I whispered. He nodded. When an 8-year-old tells you someone needs you, you don't ignore it. No one questioned his presence. They simply made room. And I understood, standing in that doorway, that this was the first family gathering of my entire life where nobody had to earn their seat. Thanksgiving morning looked like something out of a movie. Snow drifting in lazy circles over the half-frozen lake, the house alive with laughter, Monica dancing between the stove and the counter, Ethan and Ellie folding napkins into swans. By early afternoon, the house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon. For the first time in years, I felt full before the meal even started. We took a group photo by the big window, Ellie's hand slipping into mine at the last second. Someone posted it to a family group thread. 5 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Then again. I didn't need to check the screen. I already knew. Monica raised an eyebrow. Answer it. You've earned this moment. My hand didn't shake as I hit speaker. Anna, my mother's voice burst through. What is going on? Why is everyone in Vermont? Whose house is that? It's mine, I said. A long, stunned silence. Then my father, don't be ridiculous. It's the family estate. I corrected. Grandpa signed it over to me years ago. My mother's voice sharpened. So you excluded us. After everything we've done. You excluded me first, I said, calm and even. Your text made that pretty clear. In that silence, heavier than any argument, Dean quietly rose, walked to my side, and took the phone from my hand. And what he said next left both my parents with absolutely nothing to say back. Mr. and Mrs. Reeves, Dean said evenly. Anna is with people who choose her. If that bothers you, maybe think about why. Neither of my parents had an answer. Just breathing, the kind that carries years of entitlement finally cracking. We're driving up, my father muttered. Drive safe, I said, and ended the call. The room stayed quiet a moment. Ethan let out a low whistle. That was something. Aunt Ruth cupped my cheek, proud and trembling. Ellie tugged my sleeve, asking if I was okay. Yes, I told her. For the first time, I really am. Dinner that night felt like a holiday built from the ground up. The turkey carved imperfectly, the potatoes lumpy, cranberry sauce spilled across the tablecloth. But the laughter was real, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't bracing for someone else's disappointment. The next morning, my parents arrived on the porch, coats buttoned to the chin, scanning the house like they were searching for the version of me they still expected to control. We need to talk privately, my mother said. I led them into my grandfather's study, laid the property papers on the desk, and told them everything I'd swallowed for 30 years. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just let the truth sit there. For once, they had nothing to lean on. Just silence and the understanding that the boundary was real now. That evening, we gathered around the long table one more time. My chosen family, the people who actually showed up. Ellie set her crayon drawing in the center, all of us smiling in front of Haven House. No hierarchy. No missing chairs. Here's what I learned. You don't have to keep proving you belong at a table that was never really set for you. Sometimes the people who love you loudest aren't the ones who share your blood. They're the ones who show up without being asked twice. And choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's the first honest thing you've done in years. If you've ever had to draw your own boundary or choose peace over permission, tell me in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. If you want more stories like this every week, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. It genuinely means everything to this channel. Until next time, go build your own table.